Hi there, this is Chris, Chap in the Cap Motor Legends. Very exciting today, we're going to be talking about a brand new suit from Rukka. It's a suit known as the Hybrid-R. And please don't forget, if you like what you hear, if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. The Rukka Hybrid-R came onto the market in January of this year being 2025. You'll find it in the shops and online. Some retailers will have done blogs about it and even produced videos about it. And in those, they will undoubtedly have listed all of the new suit's features. But what they won't have done is explain exactly what the Hybrid-R is, how it got its name, why Rukka made it, what's different about it, and who they produced it for. And so that's what we're going to do here today. Now, Rukka already has some 6 different laminated suits in their lineup. And frankly, even though they all sport slightly different features and hit different price points, they all pretty much do the same job. They are touring and commuting suits, the kind of suits that make sense for high mileage rider, for the high mileage rider who does most of his or her riding in the northern part of Europe. None of them, I've got to say, are going to work anywhere near as well in southern Europe. Which begs the question as to why Rukka has decided to introduce a 7th style into an already well-stocked range. Well, we'll get to that a little bit later. Now, the Hybrid-R will sit at the very top of the Rukka range alongside the Rukka Nivala and the Rukka Kingsley. And these two suits, in a way, explain why the Hybrid-R has been produced. Now, our view has always been that the finest jacket-pant combination in this market is the Rukka Nivala. It's the most comfortable 3-layer Gore-Tex laminated suit ever made. There is simply nothing this competent that is as nice or as costing to wear. And that's largely down to the stretch that's built into the garment's outer chassis. But although it worries us not in the slightest, there have been people, often on social media, who have expressed disappointment that the Nivala is only single rated under EN 17092. Personally, I suspect that most of the critics were not in the market for a Nivala and have never tried one on. The reason that the single A rating doesn't bother us is because EN 17092 is nothing more than an elaborate abrasion test. It is in no way indicative of an outfit's protective qualities. And it's the Nivala's 10 huge pieces of level 2 D3 armour that means that in the real world it's going to be more protective than any non-Rukka AA rated suit and probably most AAA rated ones too. But large corporations like the one that owns Rukka are sensitive to public criticism, regardless of the fact that, as in other fields, all the unpleasantness and negativity on social media normally emanates from a tiny, usually ill-informed but vocal band of blowhards. And so, even though the Nivala has proven to be the best-selling Rukka suit of all time, they felt obliged to bring out an alternative to the Nivala, a suit that was AA rated. Now, this they did a couple of years ago. That suit was the Kingsley. And it is true that that suit found favour with those individuals who I suppose one might term box tickers. But the suit never sold particularly well. And whenever we had someone here in the shop asking for one, we'd get them to try on the Nivala by way of a comparison. And in 99% of cases, that was what they ended up walking out with. Tried on back to back, it was kind of no contest. Now, to get the Kingsley to pass at the AA level, Rukka removed the stretch from the outer fabric of the Nivala, so to speak, in the realisation that it was the stretch fabrics that didn't perform well in the Darmstadt abrasion test that's used under EN 17092. But in achieving that AA rating, Rukka lost the wearability of the Nivala. It simply was not as nice to wear. And so, more recently, having realised that the Kingsley didn't quite hit the spot, Rukka decided to have another go and to try to make a suit that combined the comfort of the Nivala with the higher abrasion resistance of the Kingsley. Now, this was never going to be easy. After all, if it had been, they would have made the Kingsley more comfortable in the first place. Now, with the Hybrid, the way Rukka has gone about the task is to introduce stretch materials into those areas where the abrasion resistance requirements are lower. Now, under EN 17092, there are 3 different zones on a jacket and pant that are tested for abrasion resistance. And so what Rukka have done is to reinforce the most vulnerable zone 1 areas, as they are known, with extra cordura, whilst adding softer stretch materials into the lower risk zone 3 areas, where the abrasion resistance test parameters are less onerous. And this is how they've been able to meet the requirements for AA certification in a suit that is undoubtedly going to be more comfortable than the Kingsley. And so the Hybrid is a suit that incorporates elements from the Kingsley alongside elements from the Nivala. And that's why some genius came up with the hybrid name. The new suit is literally a hybrid of the other two. Of course, only time will tell whether in this case the new suit captures the relative strengths of both existing suits or just their relative weaknesses. Anyway, what we're going to do now, we're going to talk through the new suit and explain what it does and doesn't come with. We'll also end up talking a little bit about the cost, but in truth, there's not that much difference between the costs of the three different suits, and at this upper end of the motorcycle apparel market, the price difference is most unlikely to be a factor. Now, often when the motorcycle magazines conduct a comparison test, say of three different motorbikes, they seem unwilling to ever come to a meaningful conclusion. Normally, I suspect that's because they don't want to upset the advertisers. And so they will normally cite the fact that all the bikes, the three bikes, have different virtues. Well, if it wasn't so darn predictable, such conclusions might be plausible. But we take a different view. There are three suits here. Now, nobody is obliged to agree with our conclusion, but we will come up with a winner, even though this is undoubtedly going to upset somebody at Rukka. And of course, we will attempt to explain why we have chosen the suit that we've chosen. First of all, let's go through all of the basic stuff that you'd expect to find on most Rukka jackets, and that all the three jackets we're talking about today have in common. The three jackets obviously being the Nivala, the Kingsley and the Hybrid-R. Now, with all three jackets, you get the same three-layer Gore-Tex Pro laminated membrane. So you're going to enjoy the motorcycle industry's highest levels of waterproofing and breathability on all three outfits. Being laminated, you won't ever suffer from wetting out, and as the membrane is supplied by Gore, that waterproofing will be guaranteed for life. With all three suits, because they are Rukka suits, you will get a 5-year warranty that's extendable to 6 years, provided that you register before the ink on the till receipt has had time to dry. Now you get neoprene in the collar for comfort, and there's a storm collar sewn into the neck of the jacket. You've got Gore-Tex cuffs, zips at the ends of the sleeves with Velcro flaps. There are Velcro adjusters at the waist, you get lots of reflective material, and there are loads of vents. In fact, the Hybrid has 10 vents, the Kingsley has 8 vents, the Nivala has got the same. All three jackets come with 2 external water-resistant pockets on the front and 2 more on the inside. The Hybrid jacket, incidentally, is the only one not to have a pocket on the back of the jacket. All three jackets have connecting zips to connect to the trousers and a crotch strap for when you're not wearing a Rukka pant. Now, we've already alluded to the fact that the A rating of the Nivala doesn't particularly concern us, and that's because the armour plays a much more important role in protecting us than the abrasion resistance rating of the outer fabric of the garment we're wearing. Well, all three jackets here, all three jackets that we're talking about, have huge, highly vented level 2 D3O armour in the elbows, the shoulders and the back. The important word here, of course, is huge. Now, made exclusively for Rukka by D3O, it's larger than the armour that you'll find in any other brand, with the exception perhaps of Stadler. Now, the reason that the size of the armour is so important is threefold. First, the larger the area of the armour, the greater the chances are that if you do hit something, that something will impact upon the armour. Secondly, the larger the armour, the greater the area over which the impact will be dissipated, lessening its direct force on the body. And thirdly, armour is much more abrasion resistant than the fabric from which any motorcycle garment is constructed. And so the larger the armour in a garment, the greater that garment's level of abrasion resistance is going to be. And of course, this is something that EN 17092 doesn't take account of at all. Finally, the chest protection in all three suits comes as a level 1 protector. Level 2 chest protectors are just too thick for road riding. Out of interest, the way the chest protector attaches into the Hybrid is easier and better than it is with the other two jackets. Anyway, let's start to look at some of the differences between the three suits. Now, nothing to do with comfort per se, but the Hybrid comes with a latty as a removable thermal liner. The latty jacket is lovely. It's filled with a hollow form fibre, Primaloft. It does a fantastic job. But the other two jackets, in other words, the Nivala and the Kingsley, they come with removable Down-X jackets. And being filled with real down, the Down-X will be warmer both on and off the bike. So does that mean that the Hybrid jacket will be less warm than the Nivala and the Kingsley? Well, not necessarily so. And that's because the Hybrid also has a fixed outlast lining. Although I've got to say that in truth, we've never been massively keen on outlast linings in laminated garments because that lining is going to impede the direct to body airflow when all the vents are open. You might therefore ask the question, does this mean that the hybrid will not vent as well as the other two jackets? Again, not necessarily so because the hybrid has 2 more vents than the other jackets. But it's got to be admitted that on a pari passu basis, yes, the hybrid will not vent as well as the other two. So let's talk now about comfort because that's really the central issue here. And we want to talk about what the jackets do in order to try to make them easy to ride in. Well, as we know, the entire chassis of the Nivala contains stretch. Consider the Nivala as the Lululemon version of a motorcycle jacket. The outer fabric stretches every which way, the material molds to your every movement. It's also the most forgiving of the 3. Put on a few pounds and Nivala will continue to be your friend. There are Rukka suits out there that contain no stretch whatsoever, and these are not always very nice to live with. Well, the Kingsley has some concertina banding behind the shoulders, but that's the Kingsley's only concession to making your riding comfortable. Unfortunately, I don't think it makes a huge difference. It helps bringing your arms around to the bars, but it doesn't make a huge difference. It's got to be of help, I suppose, but nobody's going to want to do a Pilates class in a Kingsley jacket. Now, on the hybrid jacket, you get stretch fabric across the chest and down the insides of the arms. These are the zone 3 areas that I alluded to earlier, areas that are considered under EN 17092 to be less at risk when it comes to abrasion resistance. Now, you also get concertina banding behind the shoulders on the hybrid, and again, that serves to make it a little bit easier to bring your arms forward onto the bars. Now, as you would expect, all this makes the hybrid nicer to wear than the Kingsley. But before we come to a definitive conclusion here, let's take a look at the pants. In lots of ways, a suit's trousers are less interesting and they impact less on our riding comfort than does the jacket. In terms of membranes, armour, pockets, adjustability and vents, all 3 trousers are nearly identical. They've all got the same huge level 2 D30 armour, they've all got similar venting, they've all got a connecting zip, they've all got anti-glide in the seat and Rukka's air cushion system. You get braces, long zips up the legs, reflective panels, the same adjustable waist belt and so on. And they all 3 trousers come in the same 3 leg lengths. Now, Nivala only has incoming vents on the legs, the other 2 have incoming and outgoing. The Nivala comes just with a down Y inner down pants. The Kingsley has a down Y pants and an outlast lining. The hybrid has just an outlast lining. So definitely the hybrid is going to be the least insulating in cold weather, although of course you could easily add a down Y pant if you wanted to. Most of the other differences are inconsequential until it comes to the elements that determine the levels of comfort versus the levels of abrasion resistance. Now again, the Nivala pant is all stretch, so it needs no concertina banding and no stretch inserts. The Nivala trousers are super stretchy, they're comfortable and they're forgiving. The downside, obviously, is that the pant only passes the Darmstadt abrasion test at the single A level. When the Kingsley pant first came out, comfort was not really on the agenda. Rukka wanted to hit the AA level, so they took no prisoners. There is no give in the outer fabric. For extra abrasion resistance, they put Protect panels on the knees and the hips. You've got a tiny amount of stretch in the crotch area, which most people needed just to get their leg over the bike. You did get some concertina banding in the back at the waist, but the result, the Kingsley met the AA standard, but like the jacket, it wasn't much to write home about in terms of wearability. And so we come to the Hybrid-R pants. Now clearly, as with the jacket, the idea was to combine the comfort of the Nivala pants with the abrasion resistance of the Kingsley pants. The hybrid pants lost their leather panels that run up the inside of the legs of the other 2 trousers, and what they did, they replaced it with a stretch material that runs all the way up into the crotch. Once again, that stretch material was confined to the zone 3 areas. You also got a little bit of stretch above the knees and behind the knees. The result is as you might expect. The pants are nicer to wear than the Kingsley pants, although they're not in the same league as the Nivalas in our view. But of course, they do pass at the AA level. There are clearly no rights or wrongs here. We all have different priorities. We here at Motor Legends have an opinion on the matter. I think I would say only that our opinion is informed in some ways by the hundreds of Rukka suits that we sell here in the shop every year. But clearly nobody has to agree with us. It is, after all, just an opinion. From what we've explained, it should be clear what Rukka has set out to do with the hybrid. Now, when the Nivala first came out, everybody loved riding in it, but Rukka felt that they needed a high-end suit that met the AA standard. In fact, at that time, the Met Police in particular were making lots of noise about wanting exactly such a suit. And so Rukka thought that this was what everybody wanted. But the result, the Kingsley, didn't quite hit the spot. It was not particularly nice to wear and it did not sell well. And ultimately, the Met Police decided that they couldn't afford it. So they went for a much cheaper Rukka suit that actually didn't meet EN 17092 at all. Now, the hybrid was conceived as the suit that would bridge the gap to provide the comfort of the Nivala with the AA accreditation of the Kingsley. Well, it does the latter, but I'm afraid it does not quite do the former. Is this suit more comfortable than the Kingsley? Indisputably, yes it is. But is it as comfortable as the Nivala? Indisputably, in our opinion, no it is not. So in some ways we are back to square one. Do you go for comfort with a single A rating or less comfort and a AA rating? Of course, this time round it's a closer battle than it was between the Nivala and the Kingsley. The expanse of clear blue water between the two suits has diminished. Now, given this, the choice has to come down to personal preference. And as ever, we'd suggest that you have to visit a shop where you can try on perhaps all three suits, at least two suits, but probably all three suits. But you'll need to find a shop that carries all of those suits in all of the sizes and, importantly, in all of the leg lengths of the trousers. And I have to say, we are probably the only shop in the country that does that. Now, one of the results of the arrival of this new suit, it's got to be said, is that it potentially leaves the Kingsley out in the cold, as the hybrid meets the same abrasion-resistance standard as the Kingsley, but it is significantly more comfortable to wear. For us, though, it is the Nivala that is still the winner. And that's because for most high-mileage riders, comfort is still a significant driving force. The suit's single A rating doesn't cause us any concern. We have seen the results of how the Nivala stands up to accidents, and I have to tell you, it stands up very well indeed. And so for us, it's the armour in the Nivala that negates any concerns that one might have about the Nivala's single A rating. Indeed, it is EN 17092's failure to include armour in its testing regime that is the standard's greatest flaw. The reality is that the Nivala is more protective than any non-Rukka AA suit out there. Yes, in theory, a Rukka AA suit might be considered to be even more protective than the Nivala, but the Nivala is more than protective enough for any road riding scenario. People do get obsessed by chasing ratings, but often in my view, this is a mistake. You will not be wearing your Nivala suit on track. You won't be doing 150 miles an hour when you come off the bike, or if you are, you will not be sliding for hundreds of meters. If you have an accident on the road, you will rarely, for many reasons, be surfing down it for more than, 10 meters or so. More likely is that you will collide and hit something, and in that scenario, you will be thankful for the Nivala's huge level 2 armour. The suit's abrasion resistance, has got to be said, will be of less concern to you. But here is my final point. We can all end up having an accident, but ride like an adult and the chances are that you might never have a biggie. And for the tens or hundreds of thousands of miles that you will ride without incident, your riding will be that much more enjoyable in a suit that is comfortable to ride. Dress only for the accident that you have imagined in your head, and every single one of those miles will be just that little bit less enjoyable, just that little bit less fun. And that's why for us, it is still the Nivala. And so, Rukka, I'm sorry about this. The new Hybrid-R suit is a step in the right direction, certainly. It is going to be nicer to wear than the Kingsley, and it will hit that sweet spot between comfort and protection for some people. But next to the Nivala, I'm afraid, in our view, it's close, but it's no cigar. Well, I hope you found that interesting. If you'd like to see more Rukka gear or more laminated gear, then visit the website motorlegends.com. To learn more about the Hybrid-R in particular, if you click on one of the links on the screen, sometimes they're up there, sometimes they're down there, that will take you directly to the relevant page on our website. Now, when you're there, you can check out the spec in a little bit more detail, you can check on availability, and obviously if you want to buy the Hybrid-R, you can do that there and then. When you buy from us, we try to make the process as simple, straightforward and risk-free as we possibly can. There is no delivery charge on any item of protected wear that you buy from us. Returns are totally free, and what's more, we give you a full 12 months in which to decide whether you do want to return something to us. Now, we have the best price promise in the business. Back in the day, John Lewis was rightly famed for its never knowingly undersold price promise. Well, we go one stage better. If you can find one of our competitors selling anything that we sell at a price that is below ours, we will beat that competitor's price by a full 10%. Now, there are a few terms and conditions associated with what we call a price beat. Nothing particularly onerous, I assure you. But if you are going to attempt to price beat us, I suggest you go over to the website and check out what those terms and conditions are. In the future, if you'd like to receive bulletins from us about new products, again, if you go to the website, at the top there's a section that says newsletter sign up. Click on there, within seconds you'll be in business. And in future, obviously, you'll receive our bulletins. If, however, you prefer to get your information videographically, that is to say in this form, we'd be delighted if you want to become a subscriber to our YouTube channel, and you can do that by clicking on the button below. Finally, I'd like to make mention of our fabulous little shop here at Motor Legends. It's based about a mile from the centre of Guildford, a mile from the railway station. And as I have implied, it is a small shop. It's got a small footprint, but it's attached to our warehouse where we have more than £4 million of motorcycle merchandise arranged over 4 floors, so over 3 floors. That technically makes this the second largest motorcycle apparel shop in the country. But we like to think of ourselves as more than just the amount of merchandise we have here in the building. We're all about service, we're all about personal fitting. If you want to check us out, visit Trustpilot. We have the highest 5-star ranking in the business. And when you come to see us, we'll serve you only the finest Italian illy coffee, or we'll serve you proper Yorkshire tea in a proper teapot. And who knows, if you're lucky, you might even get to sample one of our delicious motorcycle-shaped shortbread biscuits. Anyway, this has been Chris. I hope to talk to you again soon.